tonight, the Blue Jackets won in Toronto against the Maple Leafs, final score of 6-5 in overtime. Now you might be asking, well, why is Crying Jordan back in the thumbnail? Probably because they blew a 5-goal lead in the third period. That's right, if you didn't watch the game and this is the first you're hearing of it, the Jackets had a 5-0 lead headed into the final 20 minutes of this one. And by the time those final 20 minutes had passed, that lead had disappeared. It went poof. It was up in smoke. And quite honestly, you can't blow a 5-goal lead in a game and expect me to not have Crying Jordan return to the thumbnail. Elvis Merzlikins off of IR, back in net for this one. Samsonov getting the call for Toronto in net. Defenseman Andrew Peeke was in for Goodbranson's 1-game suspension. The game overall, despite the Jackets winning, to me was just a disaster. Can't blow a 5-goal lead and expect anybody in your fan base to be happy about the result, even though they did secure the 2 points in overtime. Once again, this Jackets team shriveled up in the third period like it was left in the pool for too long. I mean, after William Nylander scored that first goal early in the third, was there ever any doubt about how the rest of this game was going to go? I mean, honestly, does anybody feel confident that this Jackets team is going anywhere soon at any level? Like, does anybody feel like that the current group of the organization, not just the players on the ice, or not just the coaches, not just the front office or the ownership, but that the combination of all of these things is going to bring the Jackets anywhere as an organization anytime soon altogether right now? I don't think anybody in the fifth line could say with any sort of confidence that they could. The play in crunch time on the ice just isn't there. I know that there's a lot of things that we gripe about the coaches and the front office, and rightfully so, but at some point, the players on the ice, it's on them to not blow a 5-goal lead. The coaches behind the bench, they aren't doing enough to fix it. This has been a problem for the entire season, just it was emphasized more so in this one. The front office, they did their best to try to build a competitive roster this season, going out and trading first and a second for Ivan Provorov, going out and signing Damon Severson to his massive deal, and also trading a third-round pick to get that done. Right now, this roster is closer to getting Macklin Celebrini in the lottery than it is to getting a wildcard spot, although the Blue Jackets winning a draft lottery is probably about as laughable as the Jackets getting in the playoffs right now. And ownership, in response, would rather send out their mouthpiece in Mike Priest than actually say anything of substance to the media themselves. I mean, you had Mike Priest making the rounds in The Athletic saying, oh yeah, the ownership group, they're upset. They feel how the fans feel. They're in there. They're definitely paying attention. They're not absentee owners at all. If the ownership has something to say, why don't they just say it themselves? I'm not asking them to send out, daily press releases or anything, but at this point, I think the ownership should say something about the team and not just send out a middleman to do their talking for them. But I guess regardless, if Elvis Merzlikins did not make some great saves that he made in the third period and in overtime, Toronto could have scored 7 or 8 goals in that span of time and would have come away with a win. And obviously, I'm still very upset with how the game went in general, but if the Jackets lost this game, I would be feeling a lot worse. The Jackets actually set a franchise record in blocked shots tonight with 38, but they still allowed 48 shots on goal. That is insane. If you look at some of these shot total numbers for the opposing team against the Jackets, they're shooting 40 plus on the net a lot, even the games that the Jackets are winning. And a lot of that is just because this team seems to just kind of hope that their goaltending can bail them out in third periods. This is what is leading to a lot of these blown leads. And that's just not a recipe for consistent success. Now, they did get 2 points tonight, but again, if Elvis Merzlikins didn't stand on his head a few times, it very could have easily just been 1 or even 0. Like, honestly, if the third period was 22 minutes instead of 20, is there any doubt in your mind that Toronto would have been able to get a 6th goal in those final 2 minutes? No. Not in my opinion, at least. The Jackets were kind of saved by the bell as far as 5-on-5 play goes. And then 3-on-3 overtime, just kind of a toss-up. And Kent Johnson using his high-end talent to secure the 2 points for the Jackets. Now, I'll go over the game bit by bit, but leave it with a caveat that the first 40 minutes were made completely irrelevant by the final 20 minutes. The Leafs got out ahead early as far as momentum goes, but the Jackets establishing themselves after the first couple minutes of the first period. Ryan Reeves went awkwardly into the board, seemed to have a bit of a lower leg issue, and when he went into the tunnel, he did appear to fall down, would not return to the game. The line of Patrick Laine, Cole Sillinger, and Kent Johnson putting in some good work early, and they all contributed to the first goal. Sillinger forcing the puck around the boards, Kent Johnson reading that play, getting it to Laine, who was right there in the slot to do what he does best, and he made it 1-0 early. Jackets actually responded well to the lead, again, at first. Gaudreau, Marchenko, and Voronkov all getting good chances, and before the period was over, a good Andrew Peeke shot found Kent Johnson's stick to deflect in, making it 2-0. I have ragged on Andrew Peeke, rightfully so, I think, in this early going, but that was a really nice play by Andrew Peeke there. But that was how the score looked after a dominant first period. The real test would be the next 40, and didn't start great for Columbus as Toronto was buzzing to start the second once again. Elvis Merzlikins had a great save on Tavares, but just like in the first period, the Jackets eventually steeled themselves and regained momentum. But not before Laine would also go into the boards kind of strange after getting tied up with a Leafs player. Now, at first, I thought this was just an unlucky bounce, but upon looking at the replay, it does seem like the Maple Leafs player kicks Patrick Laine's leg out from under him, so definitely some bad tactics there. The Leafs player got 2 minutes for interference, while Sillinger also got 2 for roughing on the follow-up. So on that 4-on-4, the Jackets were actually executing stuff better than they usually do on most of their power plays, and ended with Justin Danforth putting a shot off of Samsonov's head into the net to make it 3-0. And at first, the more they scored, the better they played, with Chinakhov getting sprung up the wall by Provorov. Got a look off the rush. It looked like he was going to try to go backhand across the blue paint. Instead, he just kind of fired a forehand shot, 5-hole. Ridiculous shot on Chinakhov, making it 4-0. That's when the Boo Birds started chirping in Toronto, and the building wasn't all that excited for this one to begin with in general. Toronto would get a power play, though, after a Fantilli breakaway, wasn't able to find the net, and then it felt like Columbus got more zone time than Toronto did on that power play in the second, but eventually Columbus would get another power play, and Gaudreau had a shot that just went in, kind of just going through Samsonov, no real screen or deflection. Kind of looks like Ilya might have gotten a piece of it, but could not stop it from trickling past him and into the net. 5-0 at this point. That's how the second period ended, and it looked like at this point it was all jubilation in Blue Jackets land, but in the third, just like in the first two periods, the Leafs started the third hot, and unlike the first two periods, the Leafs started to get some goals for their efforts. The first one was Nylander left alone in the low circle just 38 seconds into the third, making it 5-1. So, okay then, Toronto kept pressing. Marner was able to get in and go 5-hole just before 4 minutes had passed. Things getting a little icky now, and the Leafs would press for a third shortly after, having, Elvis and the Jackets defense having to scramble just to keep it at 5-2. And at this point, that's when it kind of set in stone that, okay, the Maple Leafs are not going away. The Jackets aren't really doing anything to counterattack this. This might end badly. Chinakhov was high-sticked Jackets to the power play to calm some things down. It doesn't score, but it does waste 2 minutes. But then Provorov eventually would get a 2-minute penalty for boarding. Looked like a good kill initially, but then Corrali got a bit too eager on a Werenski clear, and it was called offsides. The offsides call, not great, especially when considering that for some reason the faceoff was in the Jackets zone, but you're up 5-2. You should be able to handle. They should be able to handle anything that is thrown at them at this point, as annoying as that is. But instead, that faceoff led to a McCabe slap shot from the point that went screaming past Elvis Merzlikins on that Maple Leafs power play. 5-3, and all of a sudden, I in the fifth line were very, very nervous with a little more than 5 minutes left. And while Corrali did do a good job of delaying the Leafs going empty net, eventually Samsonov was able to get to the bench. Matthews with an empty net goal after some Columbus icings. At this point, I just wrote my notes, this game sucks, man. And it would get a lot worse for me and the Blue Jackets as another Matthews goal tied it. Seconds later, the collapse was complete. Blue Jackets unable to win a face-off to save their lives when they needed to. I guess that is a consequence of missing Boone Jenner, but still, you have other centers, including veteran Sean Corrali. You should be able to get something going on at least one of those chances. Then you go to overtime. Overtime was a bit back and forth. You had Nylander and Matthews having some chances for the Maple Leafs. Werenski was the night on a breakaway, and then ultimately, as I've mentioned before, it was Kent Johnson's goal that ended things for Columbus. His first ever 3-point game, securing the 2 points for Columbus, but once again, with blowing a 5-goal lead in the third period, that cannot be stressed enough. Blowing a 5-goal lead in less than 20 minutes. I don't think you can fault anyone in the fifth line, myself included, for feeling just a little bit despondent even after a win. How are we supposed to feel any sort of confidence with any lead that this team is holding when we see stuff like that happen on not just once in a while, but it seems like on a game-by-game basis? The Jackets have blown so many leads. I haven't looked up the exact number, but it's been a tremendous amount, where I get more nervous about this team playing with a lead than I do from them playing with a tie or from behind. This team does not know how to handle any sort of pressure, having something to lose at all. I think that not only is that on the players, that's on the coaching staff to try to unlock something, because there are puzzle pieces there. We see this team get out to these big leads against good teams, like that 3-0 lead against the Kings and this 5-0 lead against a very good Toronto Maple Leafs team. But just for whatever reason, when push comes to shove, when the chips are all down on the table, this Jackets team just shriveled up, and it has to be more than just a youth excuse. There are young teams in this in the NHL all the time. No, it seems like none of them blow leads quite like this one. I'll let this video off on a bit of a weird stat. Columbus has never lost to the Leafs in overtime or a shootout, according to Jeff Svoboda, who writes for the Blue Jackets on NHL.com. So a bit strange there. I guess that tradition is keeping hold, but yeah, just a terrible win for the Blue Jackets. I know I've said I've tried to squeeze every ounce of happiness of this season, but I don't think there's anything positive that can be gained from a game in which you blew a 5-goal lead, whether or not you end up winning in the end. But that'll do it for me in this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you did make it this far into it, did not expect this to be an 11-minute ramble. But if you did make it this far, thank you for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and like to see more like it. I do cover other teams in Ohio as well. Maybe like those videos. You can let me know down in the comments below what you thought about this game. Once again, thank you for watching. I will see you at the next one.